quite the audience across the road this morning. If you can see all those little birds. So, it's August 30th, 2020. I wanted to do a garden update for the year, just so I can refer to it for my own purposes. And just to show everyone around. We didn't get to give many garden tours this year with the coronavirus and everything, so I thought I'd do a little virtual tour. So these are my mushroom logs. I wish there were mushrooms on them right now, but there aren't. We have had probably one of the driest summers. I think we had a total of 3 days of rain up until yesterday. And yet these, I think we got probably 5 to 7 pounds of mushrooms at least, maybe even 10. Off of these logs, so I was really happy about that. It's the first year they've really produced. So it rained again yesterday all day, so I gave them all a good thunk, and hopefully we'll see a few more in the next few days. And I'll water them every day just to see if we can get another flush. But so the garden this year, behind the garden, you can see the original garden. Sorry for all the racket. It's almost noon here, and we live on a busy highway, but I'll be in the backyard soon, further back, and it'll be quiet. This is our original garden. It was like I think 36 by 24. And we kind of let that grow over when we installed all the raised beds. Maybe a little overgrown because there's a poplar tree back there that's about 15 feet tall. So, but we're going to reclaim that back next year and plant a bunch of perennial shrubs, flowers and berry shrubs and stuff in it. So we'll do that in the spring. So this is because of the horsetail. I'll show you my raised beds too. The raised beds are filled with weeds. We had to give those up because we have this weed called horsetail that is extremely invasive here, especially for open soil. And when we build raised beds like that, it's a lot of open soil, and it took a few years, but they got eaten up and they're unusable at this point. So we're going to be tearing those out and doing something a little different. And in the meantime, we've been planting in these awesome little grow bags, which I like a lot. So we've got quite a lot going on for the tomatoes. This has been, like I said, one of the driest years you've ever had, so our tomatoes, I've been pulling them ripe off the vine, which I haven't done in years. Usually blight gets our tomatoes. The peppers are doing really well. We've got some basil, more peppers. Yeah, I harvested, I don't know, maybe a dozen peppers already. They're still coming on strong. So the plants are nice and green, everything looks good. Yeah, so here's a tomato ripening right on the vine. And we've pulled a few off, and I mean there's a little bit of blight, there always is at the end of the year. Nothing like it usually is though. I usually have to pull all our tomatoes by the middle of August, the end of August. I have a nice tomatillo here. It's a beautiful plant, but doesn't seem to be growing any fruit. I don't know what happened. I'll have to do more research on that. The peppers all look really good. This one looks great. There's all kinds on that. Probably should harvest some of them. Another tomato. I didn't order any tomatoes this year. I didn't order any seeds. I just used what I had, so I have mostly cherry tomatoes. There's a little single serving cantaloupe. I think it's supposed to be about twice that size when it's done. But I grew cantaloupe in this bag, and you know, I didn't think it would do very well, but it's actually grown quite well and vined quite well out of that bag. So there's a bag full of carrots there. I just kind of did this as an experiment. I'm sure we'll get, you know, the equivalent of a bag of carrots from the grocery store out of it. But it's doing better than my other carrots, so we got some more cherry tomatoes. And these are yellow pear cherry tomatoes, which I really like. And then we are into the zucchini now. I planted, oh, need a big one. I planted a lot of zucchini this year because I had these grow bags and I planted a lot of extras, and I had extra seedlings, and I don't know, I was just so happy to be outside and with my hands in the dirt. I just kept planting zucchinis, and I have something like 20 zucchinis, so we've been eating a lot of zucchini. And I don't know what these are for tomatoes. They're either sweetie or Tommy toes, but I will grow them every year if I can figure out what they are, because they don't have any blight on them. They seem to be very blight resistant, and they're just loaded with these fantastic little tomatoes. And we've got some calendula and marigolds in there, and pansies, all edible. Another kind of zucchini, and it's a black beauty. And we got some bees. The bees are hard at work today. I got them over in the my oregano's gone to flower over here in this herb bed. They're enjoying that. Not a good year for oregano. I usually get a fungal disease, but without the rain, we haven't had that. So it's been nice. So this was originally an herb bed. I planted oregano in. So if you're planning on planting oregano, plant it in a container, because it will take up everything. Like it's taking over the whole little bed here. There's a little thyme. A little thyme there, and a little bit of sage. And this is sorrel back here. Doesn't look the best this time of year, but it's like a lemony perennial green that pops up every year. And here we have our sea of Jerusalem artichokes. Another few weeks, those will have big bright yellow sunflower looking things on them. And if you dig at the base of them, you dig the tubers up, they taste like potatoes. You can use them like potatoes. And okay, back over here. Sorry if I'm zinging the camera around. Try to move slowly, but I get ahead of myself sometimes. This is our beet bed. This hasn't done the best. I think everything needs to be limed this year. But we've gotten lots of greens out of it. Doesn't seem to be getting any very big beets, but that's okay. We like the greens better than anything anyway. And you can see there's some mint there. I actually pulled the mint out of this bed, but it's growing out of the cracks in the cement. It just started as a sprig in the spring, and now it's enormous. And you'll see a little bit of volunteer dill here and there in that bed as well. These are the Gardener's Delight cherry tomatoes. They're a very large cherry tomato. And more zucchini, more zucchini, more zucchini. So much more zucchini. 2 more zucchinis. And oh, we got some. I think these are pineapple tomatoes starting to ripen. And yeah, so a few more zucchinis in amongst the weeds. I wasn't too worried about the weeds because, you know, we grow a couple less zucchinis. It's definitely not going to be the end of the world. There's a little patty pan in there, and I've also got some more pansies. Another nice zucchini. I think we ate about 5 of them this weekend, so I told Aaron last night, oh good, I can go out and harvest all the big fat ones there are out there now. You don't want to have 15 zucchini on your kitchen table. It makes you feel a little panicked. And I haven't found a way to preserve them that I like. Aaron made chips this weekend with them though, and they were really good that way. Let's see. These are yellow pole beans. They're starting to die back a little bit now, but that's okay because we have some yellow and green beans on the other side in the in-ground garden. So this seems to be the only thing that's doing well in this bed. Was the beans and the peas, and it makes me wonder if the bed isn't somehow low on nitrogen, because beans and peas grew fine when they provide their own nitrogen, and the carrots, like, I mean, these have been in the ground for months, and I mean, they are kind of thickly planted, but they're just not doing what they should do. So I'll have to add more to this next year. This is one of the few raised beds we have left that's working, that isn't riddled with horsetail. Asparagus bed here. That needs to be covered with some wood chips next year before, or this year once everything dies back and I pull the ferns out and stuff. I think I'll cover it with an inch or two of wood chips to keep all those other weeds down, although it's got red clover in here, which is a nitrogen fixer, so that doesn't hurt. But yeah, so here's what I mean about the horsetail. I mean, and we really put up a good fight. We tried, but you just, I mean, it got to the point where you'd weed and like 2 days later you have to weed it all again, and it spreads via spores and rhizomes, so it just gets in anywhere. We do have there are a bunch of chives planted here that eventually some of them will go in the, oh, here's some right here. Eventually some of them will go in the food forest, but there must be a zillion chive plants back there, and there's also the one shrub I didn't get in time that I'll have to plant out next spring. So it's in this bed as a temporary home. That's a mulberry shrub. But yeah, it ate up the rest of it pretty much. And so we're gonna tear all this out. Like 35 out of 40 beds. Pull up all the plastic mulch. And hopefully there's gonna be a building here at some point, so. And we're also thinking of building like a cement, like a patio, and putting raised beds on that we can cover in the fall to keep the horsetail out, and I think that'll work. It'll be like the pots, but on a larger scale. So, and if a bed gets horsetail, we can always just dismantle it and burn it and build a new one. So but having them attached to the ground, it just isn't working. So, had me pretty defeated for a couple of years, but Aaron gave me the patio idea this year, and that and a few other plans kind of pulled me out of it. So this is our current in-ground garden. It's pretty much just our cucurbit garden. It's got squashes and melons and cucumbers, and then there's some lettuce and beans over there in the far left one. And I didn't plan out the very far left bed because when I was tilling, I discovered the bed next to it. I discovered there's a yellow jacket's nest over there. So I'm gonna wait until a few cold snaps, and I'm gonna have to do something with that, because I can't. If it was anywhere else, I would just, put a cage over it and avoid it. Put a metal cage over it and just avoid it with the lawnmower and stuff. But because they're not bad, I mean, they're just, but I can't have it in the garden where I could step on it, or, it's too close. So yeah, so our squashes, again, I didn't order seeds, so I planted what we had, which was buttercup. You can see that. I harvested the biggest one out of here last night to have for supper. So, but we've got a couple. We also have a couple curry squashes in here. Oh, there's one right there. Curry squash. And there's a couple of decent looking little acorn plants. And then a couple more zucchini that I stuffed in, and another one of those little cantaloupes. And then we've got cucumbers. Got quite a few pickling cucumbers. And that rain probably plumped them all up. I'll probably have to go through here tonight. And that yellow and green beans over there that are just starting. 2 or 3 more days, I think they'll be ready to start picking. Yeah, so you can't see too many squash in there, but the last time I grew them in here last year, and maybe it was the year before, and we just when we went to harvest, they were just hiding everywhere. We pulled a lot out, and there were like 3 times as many as we had counted, so I'm sure we'll get a few. And let's see, we've got quite a few trees that we planted this year. This is a new chum tree to go. Put that down here next to that shrub on the left is a chum shrub that we just discovered was a chum last year. Fortunately, discovered it before I mowed it down, which I plan to do with both of those shrubs. Really fortunately, because the one on the right is a black currant we discovered this year. So I'm going to think twice and double check before I destroy anything, because whoever lived here before us seemed to enjoy the same sorts of things that I enjoyed. So we have lots of little surprises here since we've moved here. There's an Asian pear. I still have to get one more of these because I accidentally brought the same variety that I already have, so I still need one different variety for pollination. And we got a couple pears here. There's 2 pears, and then we have it's a plum. It's a gorgeous plum tree. Now, I haven't pruned any of the trees yet. I read somewhere that you're supposed to let them grow for a couple of years before you jump into that. So this will be the first year in the spring that I prune them. These are the blackberries I put in last year, and these are the Chester, I think they're called, the thornless ones. I've got 2 thornless and 2 that have thorns. We've got some cherry trees, cherry shrub, and a couple more. Another cherry shrub up there, and we got a lot of cherries. I shouldn't say a lot, but we got a reasonable amount. Whoa, dude. Whoa! Sorry, I think we seem to have a resident partridge. And he seems to have taken up, yeah. Sorry, that really startled me. He flew right out into the tree over my head and then flew off again. Yeah, so this is the thorny blackberry, I think. Oh no, this is still thornless. But yeah, see, we've gotten, for this being the first real year that they've been in, I'm pretty pleased with how they've been going. It looks like a deer came by and had a nibble here. Little snack. No, I don't mind sharing a little, but I wish they'd wait till they get a little more established. So, yeah, this is new this year. This is a Ben Sirach black currant, which actually gave us about a cup of currants, which is pretty awesome for the very first year you planted something. And we've got some blackberries on this one. They're kind of small still, but I know they won't stay that way. I suspect they're small because we had such a dry year. This is a mulberry. Funny thing, this mulberry had like no leaves on it. This was one of the first trees we put in. It's always had like a little sprig of leaves at best, and started growing like maybe 1 mulberry a year. Just enough for me to know that I love mulberries. And then this year I thought it was dead, and I had already ordered 2 new mulberries, so I grabbed a hold of it and was going to pull it out. And it hung on, which meant there were roots, so it wasn't dead, but I did give it a really good yank, and disrupted the roots. And then I saw some buds on it, and I was, disgusted that I probably just pulled up a perfectly decent tree that for some reason just isn't thriving. And lo and behold, whatever I did to it seems to have woken it up, because I've got this new branch here that, again, a deer seems to have snacked on the top of. But there's this new branch coming up, and yeah, so it's, I don't know, whatever I did was good, I guess. And I got the other thornless blackberry. That's a gooseberry. Red currant, we got about a cup off these this year. Not bad for such a small. I don't know if this is a currant or a gooseberry. Yep, this is a pink currant. We haven't had fruit on this one yet, but there's a caterpillar dude there. Oh yeah, the morning cloak, I think is what it was. Caterpillars seem to like the gooseberries. Now, here is what I've been working on slowly, which is the start of our food forest. Well, this whole orchard is, the food forest, but as far as the wood chipping, we haven't gotten a lot done because, one, I'm afraid of that horsetail. That horsetail is popping up here and there. We wanted to see how that does and if it's manageable before we tear the grass out, because it is manageable. When it pops up in the grass, you just mow it and it keeps it at bay, and from spreading. So, but I pulled it all out of here and weeded everything, and it looks good. So there are, if you would believe it, in this 10 by 20 spot, there are over 30 plants. And most of them are perennial, which means most of them will come back every year. Some of the ones that aren't perennial, I have this amazing zucchini plant, which compared to the size of the ones in the grow bags, you can really see the difference in the fertility back here. I've never had one, or even in the garden down there, I've never had one grow. This has been growing, I mean, monstrous zucchinis before we can even get to them. They're like, tomorrow, this one down here, that'll weigh 3 pounds tomorrow, and I'm not even kidding. They grow really fast. So I've got this in here. Slide hiding under here. There's a marigold, and over here there's a sage, that'll come back every year. The zucchini, of course, won't. We have a sea berry. This will come back every year. This is actually a nitrogen fixer. If you don't know what that is, it actually basically feeds the soil. Having it planted here, it doesn't really. It actually provides nutrients instead of robbing the other plants of nutrients. So they're good things to have in a perennial garden. And like when you prune it, you would just drop the cuttings right around it because it'll have all this nitrogen stored in it. And also when you prune it or cut it back at all, nitrogen fixers, they release nitrogen at their roots, like in a big burst. So they're a very beneficial plant to have. And we've got that feeding this gorgeous heart nut tree that is now, wow, it grew a lot this year. It grew about 2 feet this year. I would say it's probably 9 or 10 feet tall this year now. And it's only, I think it's 4 or 5 years old. A beautiful tree. This really is one, I think, my favorite tree in the orchard. And not just because it's the biggest, it's just, it's got these really almost tropical palm frondy kind of leaves, and they're very soft, and I don't know, it's a gorgeous plant. Let's see, what else do we have here? We've got a couple of bee balm. They aren't flowering. I planted them kind of late, but they'll come back next year. They're good for teas, and they have gorgeous flowers on them that attract lots of bees. And this is a white borage. Once it flowers, I think that's a borage, isn't it? Yeah, it is. Once it flowers, I'm hoping it'll drop seed and just reseed itself. Same thing over here. These ones actually have flowers on them now. And borage, they also, along with being a good pollinator attractor, they're very pretty, and they're edible. The flowers are edible, and they taste a bit like cucumbers, so they're nice to add to a salad or something. This is a Colorado mix yarrow, which means it'll come up in some really pretty colors next year. And this is a haskap that did not fruit this year because my other haskaps are clear down at the other end of the yard, so I have to get a couple more haskaps up here in the orchard, in the food forest. And this is Kevin's favorite right here. See, here's some of the horsetail popping up. It's not bad if you keep up with it, but man, if you don't do anything for a month, it really gets away with you. and it doesn't take that long in open soil at all. This is catnip. There's one over here too. You know, the hope is that these are perennials, so the hope is this will all fill in and be one big patch, you know, of catnip. And the same thing with the yarrow, and eventually there won't be all this empty wood chip space. It'll just be plants touching each other. At least it's supposed to be. This is comfrey here, which is right at the base of this tree. And I've got to plant a lot more of that, because comfrey is... the cool thing about comfrey is it's a dynamic accumulator. It also has really pretty flowers that the bees love. But it's a dynamic accumulator, so when you take a branch like that or a leaf and break it off, and you can see where I've put others around, and leave it around the base of the tree, it has very deep roots, and it brings up all the nutrients from way down deep where all the good nutrients are, and then you go ahead and, you know, throw them on the top there, and all the nutrients that have been brought up from the ground that are in those leaves, oh, I just squashed the catnip, are going to, you know, go into the plant. So it's a good thing to plant everywhere. And let's see, we have a blueberry. I have several blueberries in here. There's one there, and then there's one over here, and then there's one at the far edge there. And this is holy basil. Got a couple of these in here. This is another one that's an annual, but I'm hoping it will reseed itself and just pop up. It's a good medicinal and a good pollinator attractor, and makes a nice tea. It smells really good too. It's great aromatherapy to just break some off and smell it when you're back here. This is lemon balm, another great uplifting one to smell, and you can also make tea out of it. And there's a tomatillo, tossed back here just for fun. This is kind of past its prime, but this is red sorrel. Another name for it is bloody dock. It's not the most appetizing name, but it's like the other sorrel in that it is kind of lemony tasting. And let's see, we've got back by the haskap here, we also have some asparagus. These are asparagus ferns, and it's purple asparagus, so that's about 2 years old. And then we have a gooseberry right here, a John's gooseberry, growing up, and a couple of chamomile plants. There aren't really any flowers left on them because we harvested them for tea the other day, but they get these little, oh, here's a good one. They get these really pretty little tiny daisy-like flowers on them, and oh, they smell like candy. The smell of them is incredible. And you harvest those and dry them for the tea. So I think is that everything? Oh yeah, there's an oregano back here, and this I'm really hoping will fill in and be some of the ground cover layer back here, because oregano spreads like crazy. And the same with this one over here. That's lemon mint, and that should spread really fast too. Oh yeah, and then we have back here, we've got some yellow daylilies that I bought on sale last year. And those will spread around too. And this is a pecan tree that looked pretty sad, but does finally seem to be, like I said, once I prune them, I think everything will perk back up. So, yeah, so I don't think we're going to fill the whole orchard in with all wood chips, but I think what the plan is now is to do like islands. Like you see how this is an island, there's like 2 trees, I don't know, 6 shrubs, you know, multiple vegetative and herbal layers, and you know, at some point in time I'll get some vines in here, and there's ground cover growing, and you know, I want to plant some strawberries over there. And anyway, so this will be like one island, and then down here, you know, like I'll mulch these 3 together and then put more plants in, and that will be like another island, you know, and I'll just kind of group them together, like this one here. This will be another island. These 4 little tiny islands together of mulch will turn into one, and you know, and then the blackberries, I think I'm going to encourage just a row of them all the way down, and I'll mulch them as they go, and that way I can mow and just keep them in a nice little rectangular path of blackberries here, which will be nice. So yeah, so that is the food forest. That's, well, I should say, that is half of the food forest, the most established half. Didn't go over all the plants either. We've got a couple elderberries. There's one there, and then there's one over here that again was a deer snack. Next year the plan is to get a fence. So we don't have a ton of deer, but it only takes one hungry one to meander through at some point in time to make you wish you'd put a fence up. So yeah, we've got more blueberries, more gooseberries, more currants, and we'll hopefully have more and more of that, because I need to fill, you know, the only area that has shrubs around it is up here, and the rest of it is just trees. So I need to continue building the groups of plants is called a guild. So I need to continue building all these guilds. And another sea buckthorn. Sea buckthorn, yeah, that's the nitrogen fixer. There's a little tiny gooseberry here. Apparently gooseberries are supposed to be planted in a bit of partial shade, which I didn't know at the time. And the others are doing well, but that guy's not that happy. And this is a rugosa rose. Really pretty, and the hips, the rose hips, can be used medicinally. Another Asian pear, the other Kenko. This is another one that didn't grow very well for a year or two and is now growing in a very weird fashion, but I mean, the leaves are gorgeous, no disease. This is wild yarrow here. So this is what the yarrow will look like back in the orchard, but it's different colors instead of just white. Here's some that's not. And it's just, it grows everywhere. Funny thing is, I never noticed it until this year. It's just popping up everywhere. This is another chum. And another rugosa rose. And that's all on this side of the yard. So this is my favorite place to be. Matter of fact, I told Aaron this year that when I die, just sprinkle me around that heart nut tree back there, and I'll be happy to be there the rest of the days. So we got another heart nut tree here. There's a third one down there. They're just pretty. I wanted to plant more, but I bought 2 originally, and one of the first ones died. And then there's that big beautiful one, but one heart nut tree does not make nuts, so I had to buy a second one this year. So we just put this part of the orchard in this year. And these are most of the stuff is new. This is a mulberry tree. probably going to be a fairly full-size 15 or so feet tall mulberry tree. I got semi-dwarf stock, but for the rootstock, but we'll see. I put the mulberry tree up, you know, on the outside edge anyway, and this is a apple, frostbite apple. I can't remember the difference in the varieties, but they were all hardy to zone 3 or more. I tried this year to take climate change into account, and that our winters very well may become colder, and so I got a lot of trees that will be hardy to zone 3 and not just zone 4, which is what zone we're in. So hopefully that isn't a necessary precaution, but I thought it was one I should take just in case. So this is another apple, and I chose the apples. Some are good for fresh eating, they're all pretty good for storage. This is an Enterprise. It says right on it, large, semi-dwarf. So yeah, really impressed with the nursery these came from. They came from a nursery in Ontario called Whiffletree, and it's the first time I've dealt with them, and it will not be the last. Matter of fact, I already have like a $500 order ready for next year because their stuff was amazing. Their packaging, although when I opened it I was like, oh my god, could they have used more plastic? But I know why they did it, and it was really well done, and the plants were very tucked in there nicely and safe, and the quality of the trees is really better than any place else that I've ordered from, so I will pick them time and again. This one is a Williams Pride. I believe this was a heritage variety. It's supposed to be a good store and a large, good for baking, a large red apple. I think this has got to be the Sweet 16 down here. This is the one I'm most excited to try. Yeah, this is the Sweet 16. It's supposed to be really good for eating fresh, and it said it has hints of vanilla and caramel in the flavor profile, which I thought sounded really interesting, so we shall see. We got this is a Concord pear here. I think this is another pear, maybe. Let's see. Nope, Yakima European plum. Oh yeah. And we've got, I gotta start paying attention to these because I haven't done these the way they should be done. They need to be trellised. These are two grapevines. Somerset grapes. They're kind of a pink. So, we've got 2 of those, and we're gonna build a trellis, between the 2 plants. So they can climb up and go over. And then the same down here where we have these Arctic kiwis. So we've got 1 and then 2, 3 Arctic kiwis. Those are, if you don't know what an Arctic kiwi is, it has the same flavor as a normal kiwi, but they're about the size of a grape, like a large grape. And they don't have that fuzzy texture, so you can just pop them in your mouth and eat them. And yes, I realize how Canadian I sound when I say the word mouth. I just swear I just heard my wife's accent come out of my mouth. Yeah, what else I got here? I don't know what I've missed. Wandering around. This is a Saskatoon. Martins and Northline, I think the varieties are. Yeah, they look a little rough this time of year. Saskatoons always do. They get that rusty fungal thing on them at the end of the year. Doesn't seem to affect the berries. Same thing here, they're kind of dying back. But yeah, quite lovely. And these are our original mushroom logs that we got maybe 4 mushrooms off of. But it was a learning experience. They were the ones we got when we took the course originally, so I think I can probably throw them in the woods to, especially this one. This one's been taken over by a different fungus, so chuck her in there. And we have our firewood, our fire pit. So yeah, that is just about it. We got a raspberry patch over there on the side. And well, it's a work in progress. But yeah, we got a lot of cool stuff in here, and I think we've built a really lovely wildlife habitat in here. I've caught noticed a few toads hopping through. Caught them out of the corner of my eye, and I heard somebody in here the other day that sounded like a mouse or something. So, I don't know, it's pretty dark and weedy. But it's going to be a mess to tear out, but it'll be worth it. I do have another asparagus bed back here that will probably have to stay. Oh, it's doing so well too. I mean, look at the size of the stalks down there. I mean, these plants are, despite the fact that the whole damn thing is just filled with weeds. We did get several pounds of asparagus out of it too. Oh yeah, here he is. If you can see that. Oh, he just disappeared. It's going to show you what an asparagus beetle looks like, but yeah, so a lot of weeds, a lot of cow vetch and thistle and goldenrod, which I found out last night is highly medicinal, and I'm going to plant some of it back in the food forest. So this is what I'm talking about when I say, you know, a weed is a subjective word. Kind of like the word pest. I don't really like that either. Most pests are indicative of a problem. So, anyway, that is it. It's been a beautiful summer, and can't wait to see what happens next year. Have a great day.